the freelance world is such a different world. It's like generally just keeping on top of everything. I think it's better if you work with like an agent or in an agency or something where you sort of like you get to think about the craft or like churning the products. But the freelance world in general seems like really challenging. How's your experiences been with that? Like, I mean, it sounds like you're sort of working with a group, so it's maybe like a little bit less admin overhead. But like,
Yeah.
what is that world like now?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like not only is it not for everyone, like some days I'm also like, is it for me? Like it's just like it's quite different. I actually just had a very like way more kind of like a 9 to 5 job, like at an incredibly great place. Had colleagues, had everything, and it's sort of like I was like, oh wow, like I'm getting to live the whiplash because it's like this is the opposite of what we do. And so of course there's just moments when you have a job where it's like, oh, so many things are like now part of your daily kind of thing. It's like you mostly think most of your colleagues are going to be there the next day. There's like a lot of things that you stop sort of questioning or being in this mode when you're a freelancer. I think you're just way more of you also are representing yourself. You are kind of like you do have a brand of you. You are selling yourself. You're actually going through like a micro interview with every customer. Even though like the agency does a good job of like selling us and kind of like talking about how we're like incredible and everybody should work with us, but still you get on the call with somebody who's never worked with you and they're going to give you GitHub access. And so they kind of, they ask you a few questions. And so it's interesting because it's not like a lead code. So you don't get that pleasure of having to solve like puzzles. That's immense pleasure. That just thing that I miss every day, of my life. But you do kind of get, a little bit sort of like, yeah, just get a few questions. And so it's just interesting because then you look back in a year, if you've talked to like 5 or 10 clients, you've interviewed 10 times in a year. And we've been doing it for 10 years. So it's like, at some point I was just like, yeah, I guess I just like interviewing now. Like, this is just my new thing. Of course, when you have a job, a lot of people hate that and they just want to keep their job and do the work and not think about interviewing or selling themselves or having an online brand. So, yeah, but Antoine can be like a freelancer, but also stay with a client for a long time. My kind of freelancing was also a bit more like maybe some contracts were smaller or larger, or sometimes it really somebody had like an algorithm problem. I still remember a client who like just wanted us to build a better sorting algorithm. And I was always like, are you sure? Like, you want to hire somebody like sort? Do you remember? Oh yeah. Cause it was an app where they really wanted their users to be able to rank the things in an order of preference. But they were like, but there's too many items. So I can't have them like actually sort. So they should be presented with like 2 options and they'll say which one they prefer. And I was like, that's good. But then if we looked at the numbers, they would have to do that like 1,000 million times. Like it still kind of worked, but didn't. And they were like, no, and I was like, all right. And I was like, it was kind of exciting to build this. But then once we got like, it was literally like it's like I emailed a JavaScript file and I'm like, goodbye. And they were gone. And I was like, that was weird. But, that also can be freelancing, which is fun. And for sure the sort of like, maybe more like wanting to see other systems and kind of touch a lot of things. And it's this feeling, what is it in New York? The open doors, there's like one day in a year where like you're allowed to go into like the sewers and see like the plan or whatever. It's like one day, like you get an Eventbrite and all the tickets sell out. It's terrible because I would love to do every item of this and they all just sell out in a second. But like for one day you get to see the secrets. And I think freelancing has that aspect. Like I worked at Verizon on a streaming platform. And for 1 second, I was like deep in the Chromecast analytics code. And it was great. I was like I love Chromecast because of that. And I know a ton about like M3U. And, when somebody like is like, what do you think of Mux.com? I'm like, they're extremely cool. Like I've touched their thing. It's like they can be really trusted with everything. And that's cool. And then another day we worked with Wall Street people and they were doing stuff that I had never seen. So yeah, you kind of get a little bit of that sort of like, oh, you kind of open a door and see a thing. But after the contract's over, that's it. The checks stop and the insurance, everything kind of stops and you're on your own again. So,
also,
yeah.
I think the way you see work is a bit different, like compared to an employee. Like often when I see more work, for me, it's a cool thing because it means I have more work to do and like, I get to be paid for longer. So like I see big projects, complex projects as a nice thing. And I'm super excited to attack those projects. Every time there's a new thing on the table, I'm like, yes, let's build that. And then the employee just sitting next to me is like, well, not where I work, but like I've seen that in the past, like in other organizations where like, When will we be done building things? I would just like to relax a bit, but when you're a
Right.
freelancer, you can
That is
you're
interesting.
excited at those projects, I guess.
Yeah, that is a good point of view. Yeah, yeah.
Very different incentive structures.
Yeah, but they really both they both make so much sense. Maybe because they're so different. Like when we're employees, or like when I was an employee, I was like, oh, we should absolutely have this person come in for a couple of hours. It makes so much sense to have this ML expert come in. And I know we can't hire them. That's fine. I'm not asking for budget. I'm just like, I know you have $300. Like, let's just hire this person. But I also could see that at one time I was like literally giddy with this incredible colleague who was like less than half my age, who had come from like Waterloo, and we had just like hacked the hex bytes of like something we had reverse engineer, and we were like shaking. And I had this moment, I had like calm Greg was like, this, like when you're freelancing remotely, you don't get giddy. Like you don't hold hands with your colleagues and you're giddy. It's like, this is a very being at work, office, you know the other person, you kind of trust them, you have this like rhythm, and then one day there's like this moment where you're looking at hex bytes, and that's a little bit of a like, I kind of have to have a job to have those moments. Maybe, yeah. So it's just very different. It's cool to experience both.
Also, the way I see it, in the cloud, how you can scale up machines by sliding something. I see freelancers like that, where it's easy to scale up and down. And the way I see it, you have to give a good reason for not the employer, but like the organization to not scale you out, basically, like to keep you. So they have to get good value. So it keeps you up to date and always proving yourself. And it's for some people it could be tiring, but I feel like it's also exciting to always be thriving and trying to build cool things and doing quickly and in a cool way.